But if you guys want to take it, yeah, I mean, it's a class where it's kind of the next portion after Web 200, where, again, I say, remember all that crap you learned at Web 200? Now design an e-commerce interface. Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's kind of an extension of that class. Really, it's just something for me to get up and do for a job, if you want to know the truth. So yes, we should have a little bit of lab today. Chris, that was your question, right? Is this how today is going to go, Chris? You know, tough shit. I know. And you know what? I broke Dan's nav too. And I told Dan all about how you were crying during my class. What? Huh? I lie to both of you guys equally. So, yeah. Chris, if you've noticed, I'm a very bitter person, and I take out my frustration on you guys. So what are we supposed to be talking about today? Anybody know? WordPress. Ooh, WordPress is pretty great. So here's what we're going to do today. Again, it should take not so long, and then you should have lab time where, Chris, do you need help? Is that kind of what you're saying? You giving me the puppy dog eyes? Look at those sad puppy dog eyes. You poor son of a bitch, man. It just, you know, if I had a heart, I'd feel for you. So, basically here now is what we're going to do. We have been working off of index.php. Okay. So currently, wherever we are in the website, I have put, I don't want to use the term, I tagged this file because it's not necessarily a tag. And I am going to get rid of this statement right here. This if is 404, nothing found, right? Because we can create a 404 page today. Okay. So currently, wherever we are in our WordPress website, I love how this computer opens like a whole bunch of instances of Chrome. No, I don't love that. That was sarcastic, you guys. So if we take a look at then a typical theme, we have our index.php here. And if we take a look at it, index.php, right, is the file that loads when. So if I go to the demo of this class, right, index.php is the file that loads for whatever we have set to be our blog feed, right? And if Ron was here, Ron would say, you know, does anybody remember Ron from Web 105 that was in Web 105? Ron, what's his last name? Can't remember. He likes harassing me about that WordPress is a blogging platform, right? So my answer is, yeah, it started off as a blogging platform. There are a lot of legacy, not issues, but legacy things that point to that he likes to remind me about. So one of the legacy things is wherever the blog feed is located, that is where then index.php the file gets loaded. Okay, so currently, if we look at our demo for this class, no matter where we are in the website, index.php is the file that is loading. Again, you can see that it's the file that's loading because I have labeled it as such, that's the file that's loading. Okay. So no matter where we are on the site, whether we're on the home page, I still need to make the link to the home page, don't I? Right? Let's actually make the link to the home page really quickly. There's different ways of doing it, but header. Let's see, logo, echo, get settings, home. Although that doesn't make any sense right there. Let's see what else I've used in the past. Google it. Set the link to the front page in WordPress. Oh, that's not going to show. What did I do here? What did I do here? Get option. Huh. All right, well. Do that temporarily. There are different ways to set the href on your logo to go back to the home page or to go back to the front page, if you will. One is to say echo get option home. There are other ways to do it. I'm not going to look that up right now. But going back to then this, refresh. Great. So no matter where I am in the site, then index.php is the file that loads then. This can be a good thing, right? In terms of, hey, great, we're doing everything with one file. Our theme is nice and slim and trim and whatnot, and we don't have a whole lot of extra files. Downside of it is you want to, if you want to do different things on different locations in your website, notice I'm trying not to say different pages in your website. So different locations of your website, like the front page, a regular page, the blog feed location, a single posting, or the 404, or anything like that, right? That's where then, given where you are in the website, you would want to use different template pages because you might have different things on those pages, like the date, right? You might, let's take a look at, for example, if we go back to this repository. So if I am on index.php, right, here is my loop. While have posts the post. Again, I didn't put the if statement in there because you don't have to, even though it's good practice, but whatever. So here is the typical WordPress loop. And in here, I then have things like posted on, the time in the category. I have get the excerpt instead of get the content. I have get the post thumbnail, the featured image, etc., like that. On this one as well, I say if we're in a category, get the single category title, else get the single post title. I also wrote a function called get my SEO paragraph, right? So depending on where you are in the site, like any site, you are going to have different layouts, different functionality, different pieces of content based on where you are in the site and why. Does that make sense? Okay. So therefore, instead of like what we did with that I deleted a minute ago, if 404, do this, right? Instead of doing that, WordPress will load different files for different locations in the site, given the names of the files, right? In other words, if you are on a single posting, it will default to using single.php, so on and so forth, okay? So if that's the case, then what we can do is start making our different files for our WordPress theme, okay? Just like when you do any kind of a site like you did in, I'll just always refer back to Web200, where you had page-specific content that if you were on the About page, you wrote certain content into the About page. True? True. Okay. So, thank you. So to start out with, right, we need to do the same theory like we did in Web 200 or you've done in 240 or in Web 120, where you take a file and you break it into the include files, right? Just like if we were in doing that project if I opened up index.php, I would have a PHP function include and go get the header.php file out of the includes folder. Similarly, go get the file footer.php out of the includes folder. Make sense?
Yes.
Thank you. It's a fun game we're playing. I like it. So instead, what we would want to do in WordPress, instead of using the PHP written function, we want to then use the WordPress written function, get header, get footer. Okay. We can also use another function Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where? Header, footer, header, footer, should be in my footer file. Footer, there it is. Yeah. Multiple so I don't know that lingo, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm going to trust you. Sure. Okay. And then as well, get sidebar is, so the include files that we are going to load is header, footer, sidebar. There's another include file that you can load that, again, I've mentioned that we're not going to use. Comments template. Okay. So if you're on a single posting, you can load the comments template. So what we want to do then is in our index.php here is just like you did in Web 200 or 120 or any of the other classes, you want to figure out where you want to draw the line for your include files for your header and your footer. I'm going to go all the way down past my middle div tag. Cut. I'm going to say new file. Paste. I'm going to save as. In my themes folder. Header.php. Oops. I saved it in the wrong spot. Yeah. I wanted to save header.php into my themes folder. Okay. At the same level as index.php. So then here, instead of using include parentheses, go get a string value for the path of where that file is in a folder, we don't know where that file is, in what folder, right? So WordPress, I mean, typically I put it at the roots of my theme folder, but you can put it wherever you want. I think WordPress just looks for that file name. This is one of the mysteries of WordPress that I haven't looked up. And I would want to use then get underscore header. So if I did this correctly, and I went back to my home page or any other page, hey, look, it looks like nothing happened, just like in Web 200 when we did our include files, right? So same thing for end content. Good old Control X, new file, great, paste, should be in middle. I think so, because if I go back to header, because I use the ID of content in my HCD 532 class, and I switched it to middle for this class. So smarty pants. That's a good question. So the question is, eventually I am going to put this sidebar as an include file as well. So do I leave this spot in index.php and call an include for sidebar? Or do I take all of this and put that into the footer include and call the sidebar from the footer file? What do you think we should do, Chris? Right. The home page doesn't have sidebar. So what should we do? Okay. So do we leave this here and call the include from index.php or page.php or single.php? Or do we put all of this into the footer and then call the include from the footer? Correct. So if it's going to be on every page like yours is, right, that's where you might want to put it all in the footer and just leave it alone, right? But I still would take the sidebar information and put it into a sidebar include, just because that's the way WordPress wants you to do it. And you may not feel like you have to. It's the same kind of thing. Like, do I leave my navigation in my header.php include, or do I make a separate file for it? I opt on make a separate file for it, right? Is this conversation making any sense to anybody? Okay. So what I am going to do for this theme is on my front page, I'm not going to have a sidebar. So therefore, I am going to, for my footer include, not have the sidebar in my footer include. And I am going to put this as and save this as and let's make sure I put it in my themes folder this time.
What if you wanted more than one header? Like you had one header for your surface site, but then your sub-site, your subfolders, essentially, you have a separate header because it requires the different pathways.
I have that answer. Let me get it to you in a second.
Okay.
I'll answer that with the sidebar file. So now I have my header, I have my footer, and in index.php here, then I want to, just like I said, get header, footer. I'm going to do the same thing with my sidebar here. So basically from index.php, I'm going to get header. I'm going to put my loop in there that then is labeled for index.php. I'm going to get sidebar. I'm going to get footer. And if I did this correctly, I should go back to my website and refresh, and it looks like nothing happened. Now to your question. So in this lecture, creating the include files, document header, header PHP. Get header, the footer file, get footer, the sidebar file. Get sidebar. This is your answer. Right. So if you want to have, I don't know if you can do it for the header though. Let's check. I would assume you can. Yeah. So, yeah, so what you can do then is name the file, append it with a dash, okay? And use that slug inside as an argument. In other words, get this specific header, get this specific footer, get this specific sidebar file. And then write conditional statements to, and this is the thing where you have to decide, should I write a conditional statement in the header file to say, if I'm here, do this one little thing and not that? Or do you need separate files? And if you're here, get this file and not that, right? That's the design and the pros and cons that you just have to weigh to see how you want to design it. Does that make sense? Did everybody get that? The question? So the question was, what if I want to load here and that header there? You can name files header.php, header-home.php. So you can use the get header function and get the specific one for home because you've labeled it with a dash home. Same thing for where I learned that this is where you could do this was for sidebars. If you have different sidebars, which is likely you might for different areas of your website, you can then label the sidebar, you can append it with a dash whatever, and then in the get sidebar function, you can then pass the argument of whatever you named it, and it'll go look for that. Okay? So here, get sidebar home, 404, etc. So that's how you can then, just like we did the conditionals of, if we're on a page, load the sub-navigation, else load the blog feed categories, right? You're going to say, where am I in the site? If I'm here, do this. If I'm there, do that. So now what we should have then is our default template of index.php. Eventually, we are going to make changes for all the other places, for all the other files in our site. So the last thing we're going to do today is just go ahead and start making then the other files for our site. So beyond index, the other typical file that you would want to do is, I'm going to save this as, put it in my themes folder, as a PHP file and name it page.php. I'm going to save that. And I'm going to adjust the label and say page.php now on this file. So now, if I'm on a page like Portfolio, yes, correct. In other words, when I was trying to figure out WordPress, I didn't read the manual. I just, went in and futzed with it and sort of looked things up. And so when I was trying to figure out what file loaded where, I had the bright idea, because I'm fucking brilliant, right? Of, you know what, to see what file loads where, why don't I label them? So that's what I'm then showing you of, because nobody taught me, Chris. I'm bitter and I take it out on you. Okay. I had to learn WordPress in the snow. Uphill. Yeah.
No, on dial-up.
On dial-up, I had to learn WordPress. Good answer. So page.php, that again is no matter, so again, if we're on subpages here, right, it's still going to load page.php. If we are in the blog feed here, it's going to load index.php. And if we are on a single posting, it's still going to load index.php. So the next one we want to do is load a file for single posting, right? And this is where single postings typically have a thing that pages don't. Who can guess what thing that is? What's the difference between pages and postings? Correct? So blog posts have typically, what do we care about blog posts? So if I do single.php, what I am going to do then is here, post it on the time, so in the category. In other words, blog posting have those calls, where if we want to look up how to get the time, this is where we would use, and just for sake of time, I know I'm copying and pasting, you guys can, but I wrote it myself the first time around. So typically in single postings, right, on a blog posting, we care about month, day, year, right, and possibly the category. So now, if we go back here, and I have changed this to being single.php, this is where it says post on April 26th in news, right? And obviously I'd have to style that a little bit better. Right? Same thing now for index.php. I may want to go and say for each one of these articles as well, a time and date stamp on it. So that if we are on then the blog feed, it tells us for each article or for each single posting, the date and the category, okay? But we generally don't care about that on pages, because pages then are the non-timely, just sort of meat and potatoes of the content, right, of your website. So page.php then, right, if we go to blog, right, now that we've changed this to being our feed page, it's using index.php. And if we go to a single posting, it's using single.php. The last one we are going to do for today is, I'm now going to go to page, and instead of page, I want to have one for the home page or the front page of the website, where I am then going to save this as, you would think that it would be page-front. It's not. Front-page. My OCD can't handle things sometimes. I don't like that on PCs you don't have the file type label. PCs bug me. I hate PCs. I'm totally allergic. So now, if I'm on the home page, it should say front-page. If I'm in a regular page, it should say page. If I am on a page that is a child page, still using page. If I am then on the blog feed, we're using index. If we're on, if we're on a single.php, and this is where I can also do one for .404. And so now, if we're in the website, and we type in something like that, the website says, go home, you're drunk, because we're on the 404 page. So, your assignments. Create your main and submenu system. Create the template files for your theme. So according to what we talked about on Monday, did I answer all your questions in that lecture, Kristen? Register your menus. Use the WP nav menu function for your main menu at least. Use the WP list pages for your subpages. And here, I should update this. So I'm verbally going to tell you, and then I'm going to update this file to say use the WP list categories, use that conditional if you're in pages versus if you're in postings, right? For create your template files, create your header, footer, sidebar, index, page, single, front page. And then this is where I am going to go look through your GitHub repository. Do not forget to upload things to your GitHub repository. When you do, please use the assignment name in your what you upload to GitHub when, right? So I can easily find stuff. Or leave nasty messages to me, whatever, you know, whatever you think, how you want to displace your anger upon me. But I'd appreciate it that you did that. So for instance, because I am done with my files for today, right? And I now want to upload this to GitHub. I'm not going to use the assignment name, but I am going to use lecture name. I want you guys to use the assignment names when notice I'm not using GitHub for desktop on these PCs. You know why? I'm not going to get into that on videotape. So I'm just going to upload them to my repository. Make my changes. This may take a few minutes. Complete, guys. Let's open that in a new tab, see what happens. Yep. So therefore, I can see that, oh, look at that. There is header.php and creating the template files for a WordPress theme. So I can go in when I look at your repository, I can see what assignment you did and what you're turning in. Make sense?
Yes.
All right. What did we forget to talk about, Chris? Kristen, what did we forget to talk about? Come up with something good. How to make your contact responsive? Great, that's going to be the new assignment that we're going to talk about now.